Beautiful verses on the Guru Tattva. Guru means the remover of darkness. It also has the meaning of that which is immense. So, what is Laghu is very light, and what is very immense is Guru. And all these verses point to the essence of what the true Guru is. Ajnanatimirandasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshurun militam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha. One of the verses, it says that the one who is caught in ignorance and because of that caught in me and mine, the Guru is the one who comes and gives the essence of jnana, and by which he makes my eye see clearly. So the eyes are clouded. Chakshu means the eye. So the eyes are clouded because of the dust of the ego. And the Guru comes and gives the light by which the dust is cleared and the eyes can see clearly. That's the essence of Guru. So that is why the best way to offer our gratitude to Guru is by being free of the me and mine and living as shown by the Guru. Someone gave a beautiful example. If we are trying to go to the top of a mountain and we are struggling to get there because we are stuck where we are and we are suffering, and someone who is already at the top of the mountain, he has great compassion. So he comes down to show us how to get to the mountaintop. Now, what is our relationship to that person? That is what we need to look into. So, this compassionate being who comes down shows the way and says, this is how you can also get to the mountaintop. What we many times tend to do is to just create an image of that being and just remain where we are. And that is actually not honoring the Guru in the truest sense. The true honor of the Guru is done when we say thank you with all our heart and walk the way shown by the Guru to reach the same mountaintop. Of course, it's all a metaphor. There is no going anywhere, but inwardly, when we are stuck in this false identity, to be free of that identity is what is to be seen as going to the top of the mountain. So many times we think we have to simply be identified with the form of the Guru, and we think that is our way of honoring the Guru, but in reality, what the Guru truly wants is for us to get to the same place where he is. That's why in many places, for example, Ramana Maharishi would always say, what is the best way to honor me is to inquire within and find out who you are. That is the way to honor the Guru, and not make all the various things we like to do, which is avoiding that. So, when we truly live the purport of that verse, when the eyes are clouded by the dust of the ego, and the Guru, the true teacher, with great compassion says, you don't have to be stuck in this because that's not who you are. You can be free by recognizing your true nature. That vision, the true vision of the infinite, which is our essence, which is the same essence as the Guru, to realize it, to awaken to it, is to be one with the Guru, is to lose ourselves to Him. If we don't lose ourselves to Him, and if we hold on to our identity, then we can also create an identity for Him, and we maintain the same duality that was there before. So, every identity that we have, however pious it is not our true nature. We may replace a steel cage with a golden cage, but it is still a cage. And when we step out of it, then we recognize our true essence, which is beyond all name and form and all identity. That is the true essence of offering our love and gratitude to Guru. To put it simply, it is to die to our false self completely. Dying to our false self is to awakening to the true essence of our being. Our false self carries with it all the images we have, projections of thought in time, and various goals we might have, desires we might have. And all these goals, desires, and the accompanying fears, anxieties, concerns, all of these are going to be taken away at death. When the body dies, everything is gone. None of this will matter anyway. And that is the inevitable destiny of every human body, is to die. So the wise way to live is to die before we die. When we die anyway, it's all taken away. So why hold on to something that is going to be taken away anyway, and live a life of anxiety, worry, fear, concern, all of that? So if we see that everything is going away and there is no need to hold on to anything, then there is a great lightness to our life, and that is true detachment. When we talk of detachment, it is not an act of the me that says I'll be detached. It is dying to the very me. Everything will go on in its own way, as we see in this world anyway, that nobody is indispensable. Life is infinite and it has its own energy and it keeps going in its own way. And it has its own ordained way in which it unfolds. And that recognition that therefore nobody is indispensable. This me that I take myself to be is just another cell in the body of the world, and it will be simply recycled as part of nature. That's what the whole intelligence of nature is. Every atom is recycled and everything is preserved. That's what even science, the law of thermodynamics says. All energy is just changing forms all the time. And so that is the essence of the body, that is the essence of everyone around us too. As long as we are identified with it and think that is our true nature, then we are caught in the false bind and we are caught in all the things that go with it. But when we just release everything, that is to die to the false self. That's why it is said that to die before we die is to live eternally. Otherwise, we die only when we die and we live in fear and worry and all the rest all the time, and then death snatches everything away. But if we die voluntarily before death snatches away, then we live freely. Then death cannot snatch anything away because there is nobody to snatch anything away from. There is just what is. So that is the true sense of living in freedom. To not be caught in anything, not be attached to anything, and just living in total lightness and love. Then there is only attention to what is. Attention to what is the other side of true detachment, because as long as we are attached, attention is divided. So all of these, we think they are different things. They are actually different ways of saying the same thing. We have words like viveka, which is discernment, vairagya, which is detachment, jnana, which is wisdom, bhakti, which is love, yoga, which is equanimity. All of these are just the one same thing. As long as we think they are all different things, we are still caught in the same illusion of the conceptual jungle. As someone said, I believe it is said about the scriptures, even, it is said, Shabdajalam Maharanyam. It means Shabdajalam, it is a net of words. Maharanyam, which is a great forest, we can get lost in it. That's why if we read this and that and all this, we'll get caught in the Shabdajalam Maharanyam. But when there is clarity, then words are not important. The thing is, and words are only a pointer to the thing. And the thing is that which cannot be named anyway. It is unnamed, unborn, infinite. That is why if you look at it, every description of it is negative. It starts with the prefix a, which is also there in English, because the same linguistic structure has come to English too. So the prefix a negates what is. So when we say aja means unborn, anama unnamed, avyaya unfalling, ananta infinite. So that is all the descriptions of the divine, because it cannot be described in any positive term. And that thing which is beyond word, when we try to capture it in word, we get caught in the net of words. That's why it's called Shabdajalam Maharanyam. The illusion that is created by words, and then the idea of having many paths and many different yogas, all of this comes about only because we are caught in this verbal jungle. There cannot be true devotion without detachment. There cannot be true detachment without discernment, which is viveka. And there cannot be true equanimity without viveka. And equanimity is yoga. Samatvam yoga uchyate. So all of this all come together. They don't come one by one, step by step. It's like if we turn the light on, the whole room is lit instantly. It is not that one corner is lit first, the next corner is lit first, and so on. The entire room is lit in one shot. And when it's dark, the whole room is dark. So turning on the light is yoga. And that light is attention and love. When we are in true attention and love, then we are free of all these false ideas, and there is no entity there, there is only presence. And that presence is Guru. And that presence is what is the sacred, still, abiding truth that is eternal. And in that comes all manifest phenomena, including the body, thoughts, emotions, feelings, all of it. So when we recognize this, then we are free of identification with phenomena, and that which is eternal alone abides. And that is true detachment. Then phenomena have their own place. We don't have to run away from phenomena, because wherever we go, there is different phenomena. We can go to a jungle in the Himalayas, and there will be some people there, some ashram there, and they have their own politics and they have their own same thing going on. So it's not by going from one place to another, by changing the phenomena, that we get freedom. Freedom is here and now when we see that which is transcending all phenomena, not by replacing. It's like how a movie screen, if we change the scene of a movie from one to another, it's still going to be constantly changing. But if we recognize the screen in which the movie is playing, then the movie doesn't matter. The movie can be a happy movie, a sad movie, it can be whatever it is, but the screen is unchanging. And that screen is the stillness. It's not in the movie that we can find stillness. So that's why earlier also we talked about stillness, which is not to change the sensations or making stillness as a phenomena, but by recognizing the ever present stillness regardless of phenomena. The movie keeps on rolling, it will never stop. It's like someone, I think it was Ramani, who asked a question about, do we need to satisfy a certain set of desires before we get into this inquiry? But there is no end to that. It's like the ocean and its waves. We think, I'll jump into the ocean after these waves subside, but then the next wave will come and the next wave will come and the waves keep on coming. So there is no end to desire if we indulge in it. And correspondingly, there is no end to fear when we indulge in it. But when we are free of identification with anything here and now, then we see the water in the ocean, which is untouched by the wave. The ocean can change its form, the waves can be big or small, but the water is the same. So it is not by riding a few waves, exhausting them, having a certain set of desires, and then satisfying them. All of this postpones what is. But if we don't postpone anything, then we can recognize that life can be lived fully here and now. There is no reason to get caught in desire of any kind if we have clarity. We see only the five elements everywhere. So there is nothing new under the sun for us to go here and go there and explore and all of that. If we can make our life not about what's in it for me, so this is where we even started yesterday. Instead of living a life of what's in it for me, which is what drives all desires. I want to see this place, see that place, see this country, go here, go there. All the movements that we are engaged in to satisfy desires of various kinds. But if we flip it around to how can I be of service, then the very movement away from self indulgent desires brings about a purity in the heart. And that purity in the heart brings about stillness within. The stillness within is revealed when there is purity. When there is too much of disturbance, then the purity is missing and the stillness is not revealed. So it is not about conceptual understanding or going anywhere to escape anything and all the rest we talked about. It is simply living a life of purity and clarity now. That is the whole essence of meditation. And that can be the truth of every one of us if we are very attentive and loving. So it's all begins and ends with true attention and love. And that awakening is meditation. And that is true self realization too. There is no difference between the two. It awakens our heart and reveals the clarity of the sun, free of the clouds of the me, and we can then shine brightly and be free of whatever comes and goes. Um, See, excelling is different from being attached to something. If one is good at something and one excels in it without a sense of comparison, competition, and without a sense of doing it for the sake of others and simply deriving some pleasure by pursuing it as a future goal, all of that, if we just focus on excelling in something, that excellence is a natural expression of life itself. See, every tree, for instance, grows perfectly to its maximum potential and it doesn't compete with the other trees. Every flower blooms beautifully to its natural beauty and doesn't compare with the next flower in the garden. Thought which is coming to us unfortunately brings about this sense of comparison and makes excellence into an activity of competition and whatever goes with it. So, if we simply excel in what we do by attention to this moment, that is different from pursuing something based on desire and based on just getting something out of it later in the future. So, passion is a word that can be used in both sense. And so that's why the word is not the thing, but the flavor of it is important. If one is, let's say, very passionate about a particular skill and excels in it, that is absolutely a fine thing to do. So we have the example of, Arjuna, who was passionate about archery, and he was the best archer of the time, and he was so passionate about it that he was unparalleled. He achieved unparalleled greatness in archery, and he was considered the fit recipient of Gita by Krishna. So, in that sense, passion is a very absolutely fine thing. But if passion is that which brings about disturbance within and which causes us to therefore feel a lack, and we think we have to get it in order to be satisfied, and we are acting out of that sense of anxiety, disturbance, and all of it, then that kind of passion is toxic. So we have to be very clear. That's why there is no alternative to being very aware of oneself, where one comes from, what one's motivations are. Being true to oneself, as already we pointed out, that's the most important thing. If you are true to oneself, then all of this are very clear. What is my underlying motivation? Am I trying to impress others? Am I trying to play the status game? Am I trying to derive some satisfaction by achieving a state in the future? Or is my present activity itself its own reward? That is the real test of what is true excellence. If the very activity is its own reward, there is no other reward needed, then such action is excellence. And that if that's called as passion, if someone is passionate in that way, where the very activity is the reward, then that is totally natural and very healthy as well, because that clears the ground. And when there is total attention to what is, and an expression of that, that is what is also called swadharma. Swadharma means recognizing what one's natural constitutional position is and expressing it fully. And that actually applies in all realms. That's why, even when we take up a job or we do any activity, if it's an expression of swadharma, then there is no conflict. The very activity is its own reward. But if we are doing, that's why many people misunderstand this expression in the Gita. Krishna says, don't engage in someone else's dharma, but do your own dharma. And then people made it all into something based on birth and something based on this and that, and created more and more divisions in society. But the true essence of what is pointed to is recognize what is naturally expressing itself with ease and which can be of service to others, and engage in it. So everyone has got unique strengths which can be of unique service to society, and to engage in those unique strengths to serve around us, and the society will give whatever is necessary for us to sustain our lives. But if we are motivated primarily by what I will get out of it, then we put the cart before the horse. We just go with the financial reward as the primary motivation and not what is true excellence. But if we recognize our swadharma and excel in it and be happy with whatever comes out of it, one can be a billionaire, one can be just living a very modest life, but it doesn't matter. As we said, as long as one's basic needs are met, everyone is ultimately can only occupy 6 feet of space and whatever one can live in. So it doesn't matter what the outer circumstances are if one is inwardly completely clear. So that excellence through focusing on our swadharma with the attitude of how can it be of service to others, that is what is the way to purify the field of action. That's what's karma yoga essentially. So getting attached to sensations causes the downfall. Whenever there is a sensation of any kind, the sensation is not a problem if it doesn't lead to thought which is making an image out of it and creating a desire out of it. Just to take a very simple example, if we see a beautiful car, let's say, and we just see the car is a very beautiful car, that's sensation, seeing. But if we are not alert, thought will interfere and create an image that says how nice it will be to own this car. I need to own this car. Then the desire takes root to buy that car just based on the sensation. And then that desire, when it is frustrated, causes depression, anger. One sometimes spends 10 years of one's life because of one sensation that resulted in a desire. So, if we are again, all of this points to only alert attention. When the sensation rises, if I am very alert, the sensation is not a problem. But if I am not alert, then the sensation is immediately followed with an image making that wants to possess that sensation. It can be a person, it can be a thing, it can be anything. So, when we are in attention and alert, then sensation remains as is without feeding into the image making process. And the image making process, when it is not activated, there is no disturbance. But once the image is activated, then it causes disturbance, it causes projection of time, then it causes the sense of me and mine, and I want this, and my sense of me is feeling a lack because I don't have it, and then the whole cycle begins. That's why there is a sequence of verses here which says how contemplation on sense objects can result in downfall if one is not alert.
The problem, I think, when you have sensations causing desires is one thing, but I think in life, what tends to happen is, or here anyway, is that someone, it could be your parents, it could be your wife, it could be your children, they see something that they desire, and then you have the image of them being happy, and then you wish, you have a desire for them to be happy. You don't have the desire for what they want, but you want them to be happy.
It's a very good observation, how the desires of others in our life can cause a problem due to our attachment to them, right? So, see, the thing is, that's why it's important to recognize what love is and what attachment is. So, when we love someone as they are, then if, let's say, they fall in the trap of a desire based on a sensation and they think that's what will make them happy, what is our response to it? If our response is that I am not having any desire, but I am going to satisfy their desire because that's what will make them happy, are we actually helping them in any way? Because what we are doing there is we are essentially encouraging a pleasure movement of the other person in our life. See, because as we already pointed out, we can only seek pleasure. Joy or true happiness comes unsought. So, if we want to see them truly happy, or do we want to see them enjoy a pleasure? They are two different things. If we want to see them enjoy a pleasure, we are actually hurting them because we are giving them more, watering more that seed of pleasure, and thereby we are setting them up for something and they get it, and then they are going to inevitably feel low after that because no pleasure lasts. But if we give them the clarity that you don't need it because of your thought projected movement, do you really need it? See, the question is not to indulge in the desire of others, but to give them the wisdom by which they can be free of desires. That is the true act of love, right? And it may be hard sometimes, but we don't have to necessarily always want to please others, right? So the sometimes, as it's always said, a medicine may be bitter, but it does good to the body. So pleasing, on the other hand, sugar is very tasty, but it harms the body. So the same way, if we simply please the desires of others, we are actually hurting them in the long run. So it's a very good question though, because there is no apparent selfishness involved here. right? I'm not looking to satisfy my desire, and I am not caught in this trap of image making, let's say, but I am surrounded by people who are, let's say, caught in this image making. What is my response? So that's something to explore, and we recognize then that to indulge their image making is actually denying their true self. We are fortifying the sense that they are this identified image that will get satisfied only when they get X, Y, or Z. And we, by helping them get that X, Y, or Z, we are essentially, I mean, with children, it's very clear, by the way, right? When a child wants a candy, do you get the candy and give the candy? You know that it's going to ask for more, right? So, but as someone said, there's a famous quote, right? The difference between men and boys is the price of toys. You know, so it's the same thing. It doesn't matter whether the toy is a little thing or whether it's a $100,000 car. It's still a toy, and when you get the toy, the image that was projecting and wanting that toy becomes happy, and then that's not true happiness, that's pleasure that comes and goes.
You're absolutely right. Obviously, living in this society, we come across this all the time where pleasure is uh, substituted for real joy, and we then feel that we have to indulge people because what other choice do they have? They're here and they have to live their lives. Now, looking at what you said is obviously from the correct and highest point, highest viewpoint, and higher viewpoint, I should say. So we must strive for that. So that's all I wanted to say. It's part of the living of this life in our particular world.
It is in these practical issues that we um, truly find the it's where the rubber meets the road, right? We can have conceptual clarity and all the rest, but it is in these practical issues. How do we deal with the suffering of a loved one? How do we deal with the desire of a loved one, as you put it? How do we handle when something goes wrong? All of these are where it's very important to be very alert and attentive and not be caught in the trap of the me or in the trap of the other person's image as well, trying to please them, but just look at what is right in that moment from the clarity of just attention, and then the right action comes out, and that might be apparently hurtful to the other person, but that's truly doing them good in the long run, and they will realize it.
That's a very good question. Actually, I was just going to say that this is very similar to the question I'd asked, and you're right in that we have to. It's better to make them see to seek, like real joy instead of pleasure, as you just put it. But the issue might be that they may not see it that way, and that might lead to more conflicts. So that's what is like bothering me as to. I guess you have to deal with it on a case by case basis and hope for the best. I mean, I really don't know how to deal with this if the situation comes up, right? Because most probably it might lead to a conflict because the other person may not receive it well. Whether you're like, if you're not, helping satisfy that pleasure, but instead preaching or whatever, it appears that you're preaching to them, and that may not be received well, but you can only hope that they somehow understand this eventually, right?
Yeah, that. Well, we don't have to ever preach, but we can simply see sometimes just simply being silent and not indulging in what someone's pleasure movement is enough. Um, and a small pointer that turns them within is enough. And if they are not receptive, as you said, and even if they are hurt, the hurt is only for the image that they have. In fact, interestingly, yesterday I was reading, I listened to this rather, very beautiful. See, the word innocent in English, the meaning of the word, the root meaning of the word innocent is incapable of being hurt. That's the root meaning of the word. So such a beautiful word, right? So if you look at a little child, never gets hurt because there is no image there. So that is true innocence. Innocence is to be free of hurt. Incapable of being hurt is to be innocent. But if we are, because we lose the innocence through image making, we get hurt. And our children also. See, if they, a child would never be hurt when he or she is a 1 year old, 2 year old. But at some point, see, even if they cry for something, you say no to them, they will immediately move on. They don't carry it forward to a certain age. But a certain age comes when the image is formed, and that image then holds on to this denial or this or that, and then it carries forward. That is the lack of, or that is the loss of innocence. And to be innocent is a beautiful state to be in. That is to be free of hurt. And so when someone is getting hurt, we can see that that's not their natural state. It is the image that's getting hurt. And we don't have to worry about it much because that might actually do them good.
I think what you say is true. The challenge, I think, in some of us face is that we live with elders who are not used to being told um, or pointed out any of that, and so like it's not always possible to stay allowed these kinds of pointers. However, I think the point I'm also taking from what you're saying is that you have to also be true to yourself. And so, if you come from a place of not having a me in that situation, then maybe the natural intelligence then also shows the way. In some ways, it might be going with what the person wants. In other cases, it might be that things you meet somewhere in the middle, right? But I, I think I was resonating with what Ramani was saying a little bit, where it is case by case basis, and it's not always easy
No, no,
to
you're right. You're right.
resonate.
It's not easy, but at the same time, this is where the real test happens, right? And one thing to point out is, I like this expression of Buddha is said to be in noble silence when something comes which doesn't warrant a response, right? So we don't have to ever go with others' wants. We can either point to them if they are ready to receive it. We don't have to preach ever, as that's a very ugly sounding word. We don't have to preach to anyone. We can point to someone who is receptive. And as we said, that's, as you also pointed out, that comes out of the intelligence of attention. If we see that someone is receptive, we can point. But if someone is not, as you said, someone who's elderly and they are deeply conditioned and not ready to listen, then noble silence is enough. If they are hurt by that noble silence, then that's their problem. It's not our problem. We don't have to worry about their ego getting hurt. It might actually be the right thing for them to get out of. I had recently an episode that happened where someone was deeply hurt by something that they felt was wrong for them. And there was no response. It took a day or two, and then they came back and they said that this was the greatest blessing in disguise because it brought out so much hurt in them, but they realized that the hurt is entirely due to their conditioning. And when there was no attempt to placate the hurt or to just say this or that, it is what it is. Just if you are ready to talk, I'm happy to talk. Otherwise, it's okay. Just leave it there. Then they have to deal with it. So we sometimes bend over backward to treat other people's hurt and to massage it and all of this is only out of our own subtle identification with the me. We just say that we remain silent if, let's say, someone is not receptive, and after that, if they are still hurt, it's their problem entirely, and it's good for them to face it and to come out of it.
That's actually very helpful. I think I'll keep that in mind. Yeah, I think being attentive to the moment and seeing how receptive they are actually makes sense. Thank you.
It seems to be that the example you gave is great, but that person also was again introspective enough, right? It's not always the case, but it's okay. I think
Mm.
on the whole, it's case by case basis, and as
Yeah.
long as either you respond with noble silence or whatever comes up as the right, I won't say action, but the right, um, yeah, you can say probably action at
Right
the moment,
response. Yeah. Yeah.
right response.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Sometimes what happens is, yeah, I do agree with the silence and it has worked for me. But you know that, you're saying that for their good and eventually I agree with all that. But in that silence, there is a turmoil which is happening in your so they are silent, you are silent, and there is kind of, you know, that is for me kind of becomes more painful. So then I feel that talking it over, is it better, or is continuing the silence is better?
No, it's not about, see, we have to be very clear. All of these words are always, so it's not about some kind of a cold silence, which is creating coldness and discomfort, all that, right? That's not, noble silence is a beautiful expression, which just means we don't carry anything forward. We just don't indulge in a particular want or desire a person has, and we just remain silent. We don't do anything about it. We just, I heard a beautiful expression, another expression, which is to say be divinely disinterested. If someone comes to you and says this or that, just be divinely disinterested. That's all. It doesn't mean you remain cold and silent and create any the next moment if they have something else, we speak naturally about that. We don't carry anything. Just be divinely disinterested in the particular movement of their image.
Yeah. Your example as, giving a candy to a child, I think, that was perfect. And even, parents or elderly relatives that we have, as they age, especially as they become really older, they become kind of stuck to their points and views and their desires. And, but if you think, you know, back to the child example, um, you know, we don't have to please them all the time,
Right.
and be prepared for a little bit of tantrums. And
That,
then when they are ready to understand, they will, understand where we come from, I think.
that's it. Yeah.
Continuing with this topic, but in a different thing. See, sometimes it is the interaction which is worrying. Sometimes it is a worry about habits, or especially when you have children or whatever it is, right? Where is the line when you have to do an action or accept something as it's ordained? Like, at what point do you say, I like this till usually if you would keep nagging, and I would keep nagging till I felt like a problem got solved or something. And but there are some things which you see that this is how it is, what it is, and what where is that line?
Yeah, see that the thing is, this is why there is no alternative to total attention, because it's really dependent on each situation, right? There are certain times when we are, as we said, in noble silence, or divine, maybe divinely disinterested is a better expression. Not about we don't respond to it, we just remain totally divinely disinterested. There are certain times when we respond to it with some words. There are certain times when we act if there is a need for an action. There can be no formula for this, right? It has to be based on the alertness of that moment and the situation and the energy and the person there, and all of it all goes into the response. So when we are not caught in the image of the me, and we are fully alert, as I think Nick yesterday mentioned, our brain has a certain capacity for attention, right? And that capacity, that bandwidth of the brain, is taken away in a large portion by this this distraction of the me. So it's a simple example is while listening, right? So if you're listening to you, or you're listening to me, if you are completely clear, the listening is happening fully. But if you are worried about something that's going to happen in an hour, or something that happened an hour ago, then your listening is divided. Or if you are identified with some concept, or you are identified with some image, and all of that which takes away from pure listening, then your attention is divided. So when the brain is fully, completely available for this moment, that requires us to be free of any identification with any image, and there is a total alert presence, and that alert presence will give the intelligence for what is the right response. That is the only way, and that will be revealed to us each moment. And when we are not, we will know too. When the mind is caught in some images or some disturbance, then it creates more disturbance and more anxiety. It feeds on itself. So as always, the only answer is within, not without. If we are clear within, everything is clear without. If we are not clear within, everything is muddled without.
No, no, I was just this whole thing of what you are discussing. Isn't this what Ramana Maharshi did when his mother had this desire for making this appalam, and that the appalam part came about? I just wanted to.
No, I'm glad you brought it up. We'll end on that note. More than the appalam part, there was this. See, thank you for bringing this up, because it's a nice. We have only 7 minutes. We can end on this. See, Ramana Maharshi came to Tiruvannamalai, as we all know, when he was 16 years old, and nobody knew where he went. And then 3 years later, the news reached Mother that he has gone to Tiruvannamalai and he's sitting there as a sage. So she was so attached to her son, and she came to Tiruvannamalai, and she pleaded with him. She said, "You come back to Madurai, and you don't have to change anything. I'll take care of you." She first spoke, then she pleaded, then she cried. He remained in what we just actually is a perfect embodiment of noble silence and divinely disinterested. This is the perfect manifestation of this. He remained. People around him were there. They're all caught in the me, right? There are people. They said, "You cannot be like this to your own mother." They were all giving him advice, to this young boy. He was 19 or 20 by then. And they said, "You cannot be like this to your mother. You have to tell her something. She is, it's okay. You at least speak to her something. She's crying here." Now, was he hurtful to his mother? He didn't open his mouth. This lady attached to her son, not having seen him for 3 or 4 years, finds him, comes and cries and pleads and makes a whole scene. He just remained in noble silence. And then after that, when everything, she said, at least say a few words. Then he wrote something, and that writing is so famous. It's in fact the first thing he ever wrote after coming because the first 3 years he didn't write anything. And that expression is that he told her, this is what he told her: "What is meant to happen cannot be stopped. What is not meant to happen cannot be made to happen. Therefore, best is to remain still." He wrote it in Tamil for those who can understand. "Nadappadu entadukkinum nilladu. நடவாதது எம்முயற்சிக்கினும் நடவாது. எனவே சும்மா இருப்பதே மேல்." So this was this first instruction he wrote, saying that being still is the best course. That's it. The mother cried, then she left. Disappointed, hurt, everything. But it so turned out that then she lost her other son, the first son, and things happened. And then she realized the value of her son, this Venkatraman, as he was called then. And she came back to Tiruvannamalai, now having given up everything, and she took refuge with, by then, Ramana Maharishi. So this is actually a perfect story of how an elder who was caught in her image, wanted something, and was hurt. All of that is there in this, and he just remains still and just let it be. Because in that particular case, what was getting hurt was her image, not her true essence. Her true essence, in fact, awoke because of that. Because of being hurt in that instant, even though she was not ready for introspection in that case, it took many years for her. See, some people, like the example I gave, a friend, it took him 2 days, and then he came back and he said something about how it was a great blessing in disguise and all the rest. But sometimes it takes many years. That's okay. It takes whatever time it takes, right? But when you don't indulge a desire but remain divinely disinterested, it does the other person good in the long run. That's what happened to the mother Aragammal. She came back eventually after, I think, at least 10 years it took for her to come back. By that time, he was Ramana Maharishi. When she came, he was just Venkatraman. By the time she came back, he was Ramana, because Kavya Kanta had come, given that name Ramana Maharishi, and he went into Virupaksha cave, and only after all that happened, she came back. By the time she came back, she realized, and she lived a life of renunciation after that. So it's a nice story to end this beautiful retreat. We can maybe end with a short chant, and then in this beautiful retreat we've had,